many are 35 to 50? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. How many are 50 to 65? Ooh. Okay, thank you. And how many are over 65? Well, there you are. So that tells you what the demographics are. And I think I've heard that we'd like the guys that are 35 and younger to come in, who have fire in the belly, and they want to do stuff, and they want to learn about Freemasonry, and we got to learn how to talk to them. And what I'm going to do here is give you some Masonic research. Now, in the Rocky Mountain Conference, Masonic research is that stuff that you see at a conference like this, and you say, ooh, I think I can use that, and you go use it. So I'm going to give you some Masonic research, and you're welcome to use it however you see fit. When a youngster or a young man moves into town, and he wants to find out what's going on, and he's an internet savvy guy, he's heard of a thing called meetup.com. It comes up like this. And you see there's a thing that says find, and another thing that says start. So if you want to find out stuff that's going on, you click the find button there. And you notice that since we're in Toledo, it comes up with Toledo. So I did a little checking to give you an example of what are things that you can find. And I'm only telling you about things that I know are there. So, Tim, if you type cooking in the topic or interest, and then do search, and you can scroll around a little bit. Moms at Home Meetup around Waterville, Toledo Whole Food Nutrition. There's the name of the group on the right, Eating for a Vibrant, Healthy, Achieving. Okay? Okay, that's the two things that come up on cooking. So if you're into cooking, there's two outfits getting together with some regularity that you can go talk to about cooking. Now, type in medical this time. And I Am a Happy Project right here in beautiful downtown Toledo. And that's one of those, my interpretation, feel-good deals. Whole Food Nutrition, and down below, that's it. Okay. Type in social. There's the Happy Project again. The Whole Food Nutrition comes up again. Glass City Young Professionals. Now that's how some people get to know other young people, okay? And say, okay, these are the upwardly mobile, what we used to call yuppies, you know? Power Coffee down here. Social, professional organization that get together over coffee. Toledo Ladies Night Out Gang, okay? So those are the kinds of things that youngsters go about looking for. Okay, Tim, I don't have this on my sheet, but if you type in, when you get back to the top, Freemasonry. One word will do. Ah, look at that. Medina has a meetup group.
95 miles away.
Yeah. So, that's not doing you very good for Toledo, is it? See this start thing? I'm going to give you a briefing on what to do with the start thing. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do that, though, Tim, if you would go back to the top again, back to the top of this. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, instead of Toledo, put in 84102. Okay, now as you scroll down, you'll find 4 or 5 different Freemasonry meetup groups in Salt Lake City. Okay?
All right, well, let's see you cycling cooking. Let's do a apples to apples thing. I want to see how many cooking groups show up in your Utah. And then I want to see you do medical. I mean, I'm not trying to be pushy here. I just want to see apples to apples. So I tend to type pretty fast. So.
Okay? Well, that's busier. It's a bigger city, too.
Right. Well, they have 6 to our 2, so that's pretty
Yeah.
good. And medical?
I like it when the audience helps me do my presentation.
Just want to make sure it's fair.
That's less.
But this is a persuasion talk, not a fair talk.
Sorry about that.
This is a thought piece on how one talks to the youth. Okay? For the young folks, we say we're going after.
Why don't
Now,
you put in Masonic rather than Freemasonry and see what you get?
Okay. You want to go?
Just Masonic.
Yeah, you'll get the same ones. Okay. Tim, would you do 20180? Which is where I live now, by the way. That is a little over a month old. I gave this presentation to Freedom Masonic Lodge number 118. We live in a town of 1,600, 1,800 folks, and we got all these new houses. And like the second meeting that I was there, before I even joined the lodge, the guy who's senior warden now, the worshipful master, said, you'd think with all these new houses around here, there might be some people that are interested in being Freemasons. Well, I got news for you. They don't know where the lodge is. And that town is so big that you can't hardly miss it. But you have to go right in front of it and read the sign in order to tell that that's a Masonic lodge. I mean, that's a pretty old building. So there's a square and compass right there. And if you don't know what the square and compass is, well, I'm sorry. You have to read a sign later on. It says First Friday, 8 p.m. Okay, so what we had prior to that was 2 places in Maryland, 50 miles away, over 50 miles away, okay? So now we have a meetup group, and we've had our first meetup. And oh, by the way, this turns out to be a way to get the lodge to come together and practice fraternity. You know, a lodge needs to have fraternity, it needs to have education, it needs to have ritual. We don't do very good on the fraternity part because we're too busy doing the education and the ritual. We don't have time for the fraternity. That's why we do meals before the meetings and coffee afterwards. And if you don't do that, the guys will get together in the parking lot before they go home. So this is a way to do that in a different venue. It's not in the lodge. That's the other thing. So it totally gets the lodge taken out of the event, and so you're just brothers talking to each other. All right. We had our first meeting, let's get acquainted, and we've got 3 more scheduled. It's a regularly occurring thing. All right, let's go to the presentation, Tim, please. I worked real hard on that. I used it. Our Grand Marshal did this when he was between Worshipful Master and Grand Marshal, and he's an expert on this. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next. All right, the largest network of meetup groups. You can get to it straight from the internet. You don't need a mail client or anything. You just need Internet Explorer or whatever you use, browser you use to get to the internet. Now, how many oh, by the way, another question. How many of you regularly pay your bills by check? Oh, that's not very many. So how many of you regularly pay your bills over the internet? Oh. And how many of you regularly shop on the internet? See? Y'all are much more enlightened than you give the appearance of. This is going to be good. All right, next slide, please. Okay, next.
It looks like the prelude to a porn site.
You yourself can go get your own account at Meetup. It's free. It's dead easy to do. One of the things you can do then is sign up for all the big Freemason meetup groups in the U.S. I haven't done that. I was too busy getting my first one going. But as you go around and look at meetup groups, you can begin to see what various groups do, give you some ideas of how you might want to use the tool. Yeah, that takes a minute. There you go. You've got to have a guy be in charge of this. He's going to be the initial contact for whoever comes across your meetup group and says, I want to be a member. Okay? So the minute somebody signs up for my Freedom Masonic Lodge meetup group, I get an email from meetup.com saying, you got a new member. Oh, by the way, it costs $72 every 6 months to have a meetup group. So that's my donation to Freedom Lodge, okay? But I've seen some of the lodges here in Ohio. You can afford it. Okay. How do you create the meetup group? You go in and hit that start button that I showed you when we had meetup.com up there. And then you just follow the steps. Now, it's almost that easy, except when you start typing stuff. And fortunately, when you get done typing, they let you review the page. And if you don't like how it came up, they say edit the page, and you can go back until you get it like you want. Turns out in a couple of places, they only allow so many characters, and it's pretty easy to exceed the number of characters. So then you get creative on how much you're going to say and the shortest way of saying that. And you use ampersands and stuff like that to get rid of 3 letters and stuff like that. Okay, once you get that set up and you get that page like I had there, that's a build slide too. When you get the meetup group set up, email all of your lodge members and have them sign up for the group on meetup.com. Okay? That's really important, because then anything that happens on meetup.com regarding your group, they will get an email telling them that something's going on there. It'll tell them what it says, or they can go up there and make a comment on it or something like that. So now you're starting to get intercommunication between lodge members in an other than email format. Just about a week before your meetup group, the previous slide he had up there had a little pull-down thing that said more, and one of the things on more was right there, promote, okay? And when you hit promote, it comes over here. One more click. You put it on Craigslist. Now, I've never been on Craigslist before. Guess who's a member now? I put it under the events section. Craigslist is another thing that all sorts of people go to find out what's for sale, what's going on, that sort of thing. So they have an events thing, and I put an event in there, my first meetup group meeting. And I got 1 or 2 hits off of that as well. And then the other thing you can do after you do the Craigslist thing and become a member, you see down here on the lower right, it says Facebook and Twitter. You can click on there if you go to the next slide, Tim. Oh, there it is right there. You can promote your meetup group on Facebook. So I went to Facebook and I made a page for the meetup group on Facebook. And that's my page, and I can put on there anything that I want to put on there. And I went on there and put on 2 weeks from now we'll have our first meeting. And then 3 days before I went 72 hours to the first meeting. And on the day of the meeting it says, see you tonight at the meeting. Okay? So those are things you can do to expand your presence on the internet where people might find it. And you get the lodge members to follow along with you, and so they can talk. You can talk in amongst yourselves, which is sometimes. Oh, by the way, you can do it on the iPhone. You can do it on your Droid. You can do it on a BlackBerry. Well, if a lot of people that you know and yourselves are in the middle of the day, and you have a minute, you check email or stuff like that on your BlackBerry or your smartphone, and you find out that there's something there, and the email says exactly what it is. And my iPhone puts a little thing up above, and it goes cha-ching, and it says so-and-so from meetup.com is hunting squad. So, people can find out what's going on. All right, let's kind of get down to the end here. Call everyone in the lodge and have them RSVP for the meetup group. You want as many people from the lodge to attend the meetup group as you can. And when they show up at this place that you choose, which is not in the lodge, they sit around and talk. What a concept. They actually find out something they didn't know about some of the people they work with. This worshipful master last year, who was the 3rd time in the chair, used to work for the Coast Guard, and he was a cyber warfare guy. And he was right up at the top of the Coast Guard team. Never knew that. Rode the MARC train to work every day. Another guy that came to the meeting that's just come in from Illinois, and we want him to join the lodge, he came to the meetup group, and he's still driving downtown. I said, geez, you ought to take the train. That works pretty good. And this other guy says, yeah, I did it for 20 years. So we're finding out all sorts of stuff about each other just by being in the same place at the same time. You got to pick a day for the meetup and use the same day forever. And so we did a survey of who had what nights free for the lodge, and turned out to be the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So Freedom Masonic Lodge 118 meetup group is on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. We have it in a pizza parlor. They got a little place upstairs where we meet, off by ourselves. Works out like a champ. Good pizza too. And the other guys, not me, know the owner, and so they set it up with him. And so we come wandering. Yeah, I heard you were coming. And go on upstairs. You're just fine. And they got a special on Wednesday night. for a big pizza for $11.99. It was a heck of a deal. Oh, read the book, Freemasons for Dummies, or the other book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Freemasonry, by two of our more well-known Masonic authors. Because you're looking for guys to come in and they're going to ask you questions you don't know the answer to. I know a lot more since I read Freemasons for Dummies, I'll tell you that. And don't ever not consider reading that thing, because that's a lot of information distilled down in a very few words. And if that doesn't stir you into go reading something like Born in Blood, which is a slog through, I don't know what else will. But that will give you a reason to go and read some of this stuff that you've not gotten around to. And people start asking you questions like that, and they bring what they found on the internet, and they want to know what you think, and here you are, a 30-year Mason, you don't know. Boy, you both are embarking on a Masonic journey. And that's what we said we were going to do when we knelt at the altar in the first place. Next. Take photos of the meetup group and post them on your meetup group webpage. We have a web page, and we have a place now for the meetup group. And oh yeah, I can put it on Facebook too, by the way, so other people see that we're having fun. Always post your thing on Craigslist and Facebook. Put your phone number on your meetup group webpage. My phone number's out there. Somebody's got to answer the phone if they decide to call. I haven't had any phone calls yet, but I've had emails, so. And that's good. That's good. Have fun. Don't get too serious. Okay. This is what's the word you want to call it? Subtle recruitment. I know that Ohio has a minimum time you have to know about somebody before he can petition. This is an excellent way to find somebody that wants to petition a lodge. And you get to look at him, and he gets to look at you, and you both get to decide whether you'd have each other. Instead of somebody bringing you a petition, handing it through the door, and you say, who is this guy? Okay. Somebody said this morning, they used to know everybody that brought a petition to the lodge, and now we don't know. Well, no, they just moved here a year ago or 6 months ago. That's why. Well, this is a way to get through that initial time where you're trying to feel each other out, find out if they're serious. This is outside of, in addition to the investigation you do when you have a formal petition. Okay. But it's nice to know that they have an interest in you as people, not just as an organization. Pretty useful. Got lots of other things I could tell you, but do you have any questions on this right off? Yes, sir.
Is this presentation available to be downloaded to be able to show it over live? Or?
He has it on his computer. I have it on here if you want to make a copy. You bet. Yes, sir.
I know many of these things are just as good as another. What made you pick this one?
That's what they did in Salt Lake. And I was too busy being Grandmaster the year after Grandmaster to do it myself. But it's been hugely successful. It's turned lodges into degree lodges. We used to have one lodge that was a degree lodge, and it was the first one that did this kind of thing, meetup. And then another one started it, and they were coming in second to this degree lodge. And those two lodges have produced so many new members that there's a waiting list to get in the line for the lodge. And so they've gone out to other lodges that are struggling, got in the line there, and they're worshipful master at these other lodges, and they're saving those other lodges. Now that's what happened here when you all started doing one-day classes. You revived a whole bunch of lodges. George sent me all the beacons, and I had read them as they came along, but I did a speech on that at the Rocky Mountain Conference. conference. And George was nice enough to send me all of them so I could have it all in front of me and I could use numbers and stuff like that. Very effective. Very effective way of doing things. Did I digress too far, or did I hit your question okay? Couple of other points. When we do candidates, and you put a entered apprentice in the northeast corner of the lodge, and you tell him he's a just and upright Mason, and there go walk and act as such, and he'll have a seat amongst the brethren, you take him over to a chair, and you set him in it, and there's nobody sitting on either side of him. And he doesn't think anything about that. And then he comes to the next meeting, and he walks in downstairs, and nobody says hi. Wonder why he never comes back. We got to really work on that. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Excuse me. What's your opinion on this one-day thing?
Oh, excellent. Absolutely excellent. You get people, well, let me frame it to you this way. So, if I petition the lodge, how long will it take me to become a Mason? Usually about 6 months. Well, what am I going to learn? Well, I can't tell you. You'll have to go through it to find out. 6 months. And how often do I have to come? Well, you have to come the night that you're initiated, passed, and raised. You have to do a catechism. There's some memory work involved, and that usually takes a month or so between each degree. I don't know whether I can afford that kind of time. Well, when do you do this? Oh, we do it on Thursday night. Oh, I'm not available Thursday night. Oh. If you do a one-day class, and you have a guy that works odd hours, where he couldn't even come to a meeting at all, or he doesn't think he wants to put in a whole lot of time until he finds out what it's about, you can make him a Master Mason in a day. And he can choose how much time he wants to devote. And we even in little old Utah, had guys come in and say, oh, that's cool. I want to learn every lecture. I really want to get involved in this. But prior to that, they kind of heard of Masonry, but they didn't think it applied to them. I think it's excellent. And I think Ohio's done a good job of using it as it should be used. Remember, you almost always get the most excellent ritual at a one-day class. Lodge's quality on ritual goes up and down. But you always put together the best cast you can for a one-day class, and you really give them a quality experience. I also have an opinion on whether or not you ought to do proficiency. Missouri and Iowa agree, you don't need it. Doesn't make any difference whether you have it or not, because it doesn't really prove much. You also have all sorts of people that you can't keep from doing ritual. You can't keep them from doing it. They can memorize a lecture in a day and a half. Don't you want them doing your lectures? Yes. You bet. That means I don't have to anymore. That's very important too. When you're the one guy in the lodge that does the lectures, that gets old after a while. You need new people to come in and go do that work so you can sit on the sidelines and your and oh, by the way, your lecture performance goes way up when you're sitting on the sidelines. Trust me.
That's universal.
Yeah, it is. So, we don't have to have every worshipful master to be an excellent ritualist. What we need is a good leader of the lodge to move the lodge forward. So there's a balance to be made here. And we have a tendency to worry about the ritual part, forget about the leadership part. That's why secretaries run lodges.
I would just remind you of something that we talked about yesterday, which is you've mentioned that ritual isn't education, but it provides a framework for
Yeah,
education.
that's absolutely
And
correct.
a misunderstanding of the catechism proficiency is that it's a rote memorization, learn this, repeat, rather than using that as one of our traditional frames for education. Because knowing that you came from a lodge of the Holy Saints John of Jerusalem as an opportunity to teach something and to learn something. If you're not going to use the tool for its intended purpose, that's up to you. But to say that we don't need catechisms or that there's no use to them, which is like maybe what you're insinuating, it's another framework.
It is.
to teach.
It is.
It's not the only one, but to say that we don't need them, I just would have to disagree.
Well, and
But it's your so.
you're absolutely correct on that. My only point is that it won't make or break whether they continue on in Masonry, whether or not they do.
If you use it to teach.
Correct. But I belong to a couple of lodges where they don't do that. And it's just rote memorization, and that's almost as bad as nothing. Any other questions? I'm rambling on here. Yes, sir.
Based on what you've said, I'd like your opinion on 2 points. What in your mind's eye constitutes the attributes of an educated Mason, and what in your mind's eye, based on what you said, constitutes the definition of Masonic education?
How much time do we
You don't like to ask easy questions, do you?
Were you
All
here on
right.
Friday?
What?
Were you here on Friday?
Hey, what?
I think Masonic education needs to talk about history, philosophy, and what the symbols mean. And I guarantee you, I'm not good on any of those. I'm getting better. I got a long ways to go. But from all I've heard, all I've read, that's what the young adults are asking for. We're not doing a very good job of providing it. We're failing our customers. Our customers are the people we want to be members and the new members. We're also failing ourselves because we're not trying hard enough. I know how easy that is not to try hard enough. That's real easy. You've got this to do and you've got that to do and you have this meeting to go to and that meeting to go to. I think I think those are the 3 parts of what Masonic education talks about. When you have a meetup group and you talk around the table, that's when you talk about things you do in lodge and why you do things in lodge. It's the time where you say, why you don't walk between the Bible and the East, and things. Well, that's a tradition, okay? And that's the light flows between the worshipful master and the source of light, and all that sort of thing. And people don't think about that. And oh, by the way, there's differences in how you run the lights around the altar. In Utah, you can't open the Bible without having the lesser lights on first so you can see the Bible to open it. Well, once I got that in my head and got used to that idea, now I come back to Ohio and Virginia where they don't do that. And it seems like sacrilege. You can't do that, you can't see the Bible. So there's all sorts of little things like that, which we don't tell people specifically. We all know it. How do we know? Well, we picked it up over the years. We always assume that this new guy we brought in, since we gave him this excellent ritual, knows what we know. And he doesn't even know what questions to ask, so we don't know what questions to answer. So we got this gap between what we think he knows, what he does know, and he doesn't know what to ask, so he can learn what he is that he really wants to know. That's a tougher. So that's why we need the fraternity and the education and the ritual. That help?
No. Second part of my question was, what attributes constitutes an educated Mason?
What attributes constitute educated Mason? That's a good question.
That's a guy that has more answers than questions. A guy that can answer some of the things I just talked about that I don't know yet. Okay, I'm a relatively senior Mason, but I don't know that I'm a relatively educated Mason. I know a lot more than I did 12 years ago, but I now know what I don't know, and that's a big deal. And I got at least that many Masonic books I've bought in the last 10 years or so that I haven't read yet. It's in the round to it pile, okay? I need to get round to it. When I read those, then I'll feel better about myself, okay? So I understand where it is I need to go, and I have the wherewithal to do it now. And oh, by the way, I retired in January, so supposedly I had more time to do this. Now all I gotta do is start. Guess what? We have to start. George.
Lloyd, I'd like to actually go back a little bit to the social media aspect here, and I wanted to make a couple comments, but ask you and maybe the other brothers for a couple of opinions. I'm on Facebook. I've been there for a couple of years, and I like to look through it. I've become a friend with a number of the Masonic groups. There's one lodge in Ohio that I get 7 emails a day from, having to do with some meetings and things that I cannot have anything to do with, and it's almost become a little bothersome. Several other Masonic groups where you get a lot. Some where you get an item or two, and I think it's fine. As was mentioned earlier, the Masonic Service Association now has more of an active, and we've had one for a while, more of an active Facebook page. Well, I got into a whole bunch of problems just a couple weeks ago. On the afternoon, I was leaving on vacation, by the way, and it wasn't good timing for that.
Sorry, I forgot I got this thing on.
But we had done a little bit of promoting, and we went from like 16 or 18 to 260 people as friends within a very short amount of time. All of a sudden, one brother puts up there, "I'm having problems posting on your Facebook page. I can comment on what other people say, but I can't post." And I'm thinking, well, you're putting that on the page, you're putting your opinion up there somehow. And then I realized the difference of what he was saying between the posting and the commenting. And I guess I'm having a little problem with it, and that's why I wanted to ask for some advice. For the MSA, for any of your grand lodges that might have a page, any of your lodges or other organizations, is it necessary to allow the average person to post? My thought is, what we want was them to be a friend of your organization, they're interested in it, so that you can send them. And I realize that's a one-way communication and not a two-way. A lot of people don't like that. But that you send something out to them. If they want to comment on it, it's fine, but it's their way of supporting your organization. And Sean's going to find, he's going to be right in the midst of this, that job at George Washington, and a lot of groups are doing that. But what are some of your opinions? Am I too old-fashioned that I don't want to have a chat room on my organization's Facebook page? Or how do you tell the people nicely, you're not commenting on our page, or you're not setting up your own agenda on our page? I just want some opinions. Go ahead.
George, I think you have a responsibility, especially to the MSANA, not to allow other people to post on there. I mean, you have a very specific direction you wish to head with what's on your page, and that can take you in so many different directions. I would stay away from it with a 10-foot pole, and I would just explain that in a nice way, which I know you can do. I've heard you do it before. whereas we're certainly interested in their opinions, there are other places to do that.
The other question is, how often on a page like that, from an organization, a lodge, do you want to put something out? I'd say I get this one lodge, a small lodge, I get 7 things a day, and it's useless to me, or I ignore them. What is a good time? How often do you want to put something out that's useful to your friends?
I have a website for education, and as a result of those who look at that website and want to go to the Facebook, it's a general open Facebook discussion for anyone who has subsequently looked at the website. I have a closed discussion group by invitation only. So if you, George Bratz, would like to join my closed group, you send me a request. I check out George Bratz. I see on Facebook who your friends are, and if I see that you're Masonically qualified, I accept your invitation, and you are now in a closed group. If George Bratz said something that is not Masonic or behaves in text that way, George is history. I offer them one opportunity to either offer their apology or back out themselves, or otherwise it's as simple as writing that check. Delete. And the site I'm talking about, when I got this in my hand, is weofm.org, the Worldwide Exemplification of Freemasonry. We were endorsed by the Grand Lodge of Indiana, if you don't mind me, a little ad, by the 1st of January 2011 to last night. We have given 1,173,000 presentations to 150 countries of the world. It's Masonic education. It's the history of the fraternity. This is how we are looking at. This is the future. Brethren, this is the future. We've got brethren all over the world, whether they're on the Autobahn in Germany or sitting in a hot tub in Tokyo or in Honolulu, who can look at our sites and get some Masonic awareness. And the youngster today who has chosen our fraternity and to come on board, he wants his time a little better spent. He doesn't want to go to lodge and listen to the reading of the minutes and paying the bills. He wants to get some Masonic awareness. And this is where it's going to have to come. I am not suggesting that we change one word or one syllable of this ritual that we so dearly have committed ourselves to. I'm talking about another delivery. My closing statement to you is, I'm glad to have this opportunity. There are 42 of you in this room. You represent about 1/3 Master Masons in the central part of the United States. When you walk out of the door this afternoon, your presentation that you have is gone, just like Brother Bratz's. Those other 300,000 are never going to hear Brother Bratz. Wouldn't it have been nice today to have had this live so the brother who is in bed, can't come, doesn't have the finances, maybe he's watching the grandchildren, could either record it and look at it at another time. Brethren, if it's more light in Masonry that you really want to give, we've got to think about how we're going to do it. That's our obligation. That's adjunct to what we said. Remember, we were neither naked nor shod, and we were at an altar, and we were prompted by someone to say, what do you desire? And just for a second time you had to say a word on your own. You were blindfolded, and you said, more light in Masonry. That's adjunct to your obligation, and that's our responsibility. We've got to think about that unborn Master Mason who's not born yet, who one day wants to know what went on in Toledo on the 29th of May, 2012. WEOFM. There were 38 lectures there for you and for your brethren in your lodge to take the laptop to the brother who can't come to lodge tonight and set it alongside his bed or sit there on his chest and do it. WEOFM.org. There it is, right there. And those lectures are free. They're not costing you a penny. I'm not selling anything. Not a thing. I'm giving it to you. There's Brother Coop, who writes continuously in the Scottish Rite. That's Victor Sermeno. There's McCulty. Ralph McNeil, past master of Prince Hall Masonry. There's the past Grand Master of Washington, D.C. There's Brother Laser. There is an outstanding individual right there, Dr. Nagy. There's an answer for Masonic awareness. Absolute. He's just going crazy all over North America right now. 1,173,000 presentations since the 1st of January of last year to 150 countries. If anybody's interested in how to do this and how to receive it, this is yours. This is yours. Take it. You can embed that. Embed it in every Blue Lodge that you've got. It's yours. It's free. I love this. Thank you very, very much.
Any other questions?
Okay, I want to thank you. Yes, sir.
I got an unrelated question.
Oh,
In
okay.
your travels, do you find many lodges that sponsors chess?
Sponsor what?
Chess?
Chess.
I said it was unrelated. You don't?
Not in my experience, no. But then, I don't play chess, so I'm not looking for any that do. You know what, though? I wouldn't put it past Google for telling you. Masonic lodges and chess. Worst you can find out is that they don't know either. And they may know. There may be something there for you. I want to thank you all for making my presentation easy and for adding to it. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.